So the big question is this: how are real estate investors who don't have a ton of free time, don't have access to off-market deals, and didn't start life on third base, how do we grow a real estate business conservatively to support our families, finally leave the corporate rat race, and build a legacy? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. I'm Ed Matthews, and this is Real Estate Underground.
This is the Real Estate Underground podcast show number 64.
Greetings and salutations, Real Estate Undergrounders. It's Ed Matthews again. Thank you so much for making time for our show this week. This week, I'm blessed with a gentleman who does what I have always aspired to do and I'm working real hard to do, and that is raising capital. I'm joined by Don Spafford from Happy Camper Capital. Don, welcome to the show. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Ed. My pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So you know, as I just admitted to you offline, I've been stalking you on LinkedIn for quite some time, and you know, I came away really impressed with first off, how many things you do successfully. You, my friend, have a lot going on, and but also, you know, how fast Happy Camper is growing, and you know, some of the successes you've had has been really impressive. So thank you for coming on and sharing your experiences today.
Yeah. Thanks for inviting me. I'm always happy to talk about it.
Yeah, right on. So for those of us out there who haven't had the benefit of stalking you on social media, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and your background and how you got to where you are right now?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'll welcome any stalkers that want to come follow me and see what I'm doing. I'm always open to that.
Too.
Yeah. But so my background, man. You know, I'd say early on at a young age, I always had an affinity for numbers, right? My favorite subject in school was always math and science. I got my first job at 14 years old, making $3.25 an hour, right? Oh, yeah. So, long ways time ago. But even early on back then, you know, I was always interested in following like the stock markets. I'd look at back then before the days of the internet, really. I look at the stock numbers in the newspapers and things, and so I was always following investing and numbers, wanting to find a way to make money work for me.
Yep.
So fast forward many years, I went to college, got degrees in finance, banking, investment science, portfolio management, and accounting, all with the intention of becoming a financial advisor, working in that field of investing, really.
So only 4 degrees, huh? Okay.
Yeah. And so the downside was that during a lot of this time, I was going to school part-time because I was always raising a family as well and working full-time. So I was going to first night classes. And by the time I finally got done in the spring of 2008, the markets were starting to collapse. The big companies I was planning to go work for were all going out of business and laying people off. And so my outlook was very bleak. I was like, man, this is not the good time to be getting involved in this type of job.
Yeah.
And so luckily for me, at least I had a job. I was working in that industry already for a company that does back office support for investment advisors.
Yep.
I'd already been there for many years. In fact, they paid for my schooling, which made it great. I didn't have any student loan debt. But I was like a little bit depressed, honestly, because this is what I've been working for, and now my dreams were like disappearing, and I didn't know what to do. So I held on to the job I had until I was secure there, not knowing what to do. That's actually at that point, I actually went back to school, got the accounting degree, figured I'd at least go get a CPA. Maybe that's close enough. Not quite what I want to do, but at least still, all the jobs I could find that time were accounting jobs. There was no anything else finance related. That was the closest thing. So I was like, why fight what's working against me? Just go for it. And so, but then in the end, I got that degree. I got the degree, started studying for the CPA exams, and then just realized I really don't like accounting. So I did not pursue that either. I instead, focused on what I had, focused on my family. That was what most important to me. And so as time went on, as our youngest child was starting school, my wife was looking for something to do. She'd always been a stay-at-home mom. And so real estate kind of somehow came up. I think it was on some show we were watching at the time. I don't know that someone was talking about being a realtor. And so I mentioned to her, what do you think about being a realtor? You could, make decent money, but your hours are flexible. If the kids are sick or during summer, you can still be home with them. And she liked that idea. She liked to be able to talk to people and help people. So she went and studied that and got that license. And she started working with like, as soon as she got her license, like literally her first first clients were investors. At this time we lived in Omaha, Nebraska. Yeah, great time. And honestly, myself, I was already before that interested in wanting to buy these properties that were essentially on sale at the time. I just didn't know how, I didn't have the resources to do it. But when she started working with people that were now buying these properties, they were essentially buying them in cash. Some of them had lines of credit they took in a business or whatever to buy these properties in cash. And they would essentially they were doing the BRRRR strategy with, if people don't know, that's the buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and do it again. So that's essentially what they were doing. So I thought was just incredibly amazing. I had no idea you could even do that at the time.
Right.
And but again, I did not know how, I did not have the resources to do it. As I started learning and studying more, reading books and whatever, I got more motivated, interested to do it. But then at the time, we decided to move from Omaha to Idaho, where I'm at now. So I kind of put all that on hold, waited till we got here, waited about another year later to really get back into it, and eventually discovered Bigger Pockets. And then that kind of really ramped up my education and my preparation, understanding, the motivation more than anything else to really make the moves and make things happen. I found a way to get creative. So for people that are just starting out and say, I don't have the money to invest either, that was a big thing for me. It's like, I don't have 20 or 25% down payment for a property.
Right.
Well, I discovered that there are lenders out there. There's one local in my area that does a 10% down payment on investment properties. And I also discovered I could, use some creative financing. I still didn't have much savings, pretty much nothing really, but I did have my 401k that I had been putting money in for a long time before that, enough so that I could borrow from that. I could take a loan for my 401k for that down payment at a 10% down payment on a four-plex I bought. And that's how I got started, with literally, technically nothing out of pocket really, or very little. So that's what really got me started and got that ball rolling, I would say, because it was, when you invest in real estate, it's not get rich quick thing. You don't, make $1 million overnight in most cases.
If only, that'd be awesome.
But yeah. But you can start to build that slowly, that wealth building process, and you start getting to more properties, you start learning more, making more contacts and networking with people, and then just opportunities start to appear before you. And then if you're depending on what you can do at the time, or what your risk factor is, I guess, you can seize those opportunities and make things happen much faster than otherwise could happen.
Yeah.
Like myself here, I bought that first property at four-plex, about 5.5 years ago from right now. When I bought that first property, my goal was in 5 years, I wanted to have the option to leave my job. I wanted to have enough passive income coming in, or other income from real estate that could overtake my income from that job. And luckily, I can say that happened. I was able to leave my job at the end of 2022, and now I'm full-time real estate.
That's awesome. Wow. Congratulations.
Thanks.
And so in terms of your business specifically, why real estate? I mean, obviously you're a smart guy. You've got, more degrees than, I probably went to school as long as you, but I only came out with one, well, actually two majors, but one degree. Right. And I feel like I went to school for about 25 years, but because I did it like you, I went nights for a few years for other reasons that we can get into at some point, but it's you could do anything, right? I mean, you've got a finance degree, you've got an accounting degree. What was it about real estate as opposed to the stock market or bonds or, another asset class that really, drew you into this industry?
Yeah. So I was investing in stocks too. In fact, I started investing in stocks in 2008. Again, everything was on sale. So I'm like, hey, this is a great opportunity. I didn't have a lot of money.
Ruined it.
Yeah. All right. So I was investing, a little bit I could back then, buying some stocks and things. What I could. I had like a few $100s, but something. I was like, hey, these are still on sale. They could go up a lot, and keep that rolling. So, but what really drew me to real estate was a few different things. Well, first of all, with stocks, there's really no way to leverage that. I mean, you can, but it's much more risky. But so basically, if you want to own $100,000 of stocks, you've got to have $100,000 to invest, essentially, or a long time horizon to wait for it to grow. And typically, you're not getting real cash flow. I mean, there are stocks that pay dividends, some that are kind of high dividends, but still, even then, to really make enough dividend income, you have to invest a lot of money to have a large number of shares to get real dividend money from that. So for me, that was not something that was going to really likely happen to get to the goals I was trying to reach. And on top of that, especially as technology grew and some high high profile people could make public comments about something that could
Yeah.
totally drive a stock price up or down.
See
You
Elon
have zero
Musk,
control
right?
over what happens. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
exactly. So I'm like, why would I want to put my money and trust into something that could just disappear instantly with zero control over everything? So
Right.
what I liked about real estate, what drew me into it, is that there's relatively over the time horizon, those values are always going to go up. You're going to have dips like in 2008 happened,
Sure.
but relatively speaking, long term, they're going to hold their wealth and grow wealth over time. The you can use leverage, so I can buy a $1 million property with a smaller percentage of that down payment
Yeah.
rather than paying $1 million to buy it.
Beautiful thing.
I have a lot more control over maintaining the value and keeping the value up,
Yep.
and driving the income from the rents and everything else, or not as opposed or not as affected by market conditions so much.
Right.
And then on top of that is just the income that I can create from that amount invested is much higher than what I would get from those dividends. And so, and on top of that, the tax savings as well. Right. So the depreciation, passive income versus active income, that kind of stuff. All those different factors. For me, what really attracted me to real estate and wanting to do more into it as the only option I could see to change my future, to get to the financial goals I was trying to achieve. I would
Right.
not ever get there working more hours for somebody else.
Yeah, I don't know of a way, unless you happen to work for a company that goes public, or yeah, that's pretty much the only way I know how to do it. But there's really no way for you to have a W-2 and work for someone else and achieve financial freedom on a medium term basis. I'm not going to say short term, because the game we play is a long term game. But over the course of 5 or 10 years, you can create financial freedom. Maybe less if you go faster, right? If you raise capital and do some of the things you've done. But the fact is that if time was like my parents' generation, baby boomers, right? They thought that security was going to college, getting a job, working for that company for 40 years, retiring on a pension. What are those, right? Remember those? Those were awesome.
Yeah.
And then, live out the next 10, 15 years of your life until the end, right? And, two factors have changed. One is there is no, short of Social Security, which who knows where that's going to be in when people go for it. But, the fact is that the social contract has changed substantially, and companies are not interested in making sure that you're covered once you stop working for them. And the fact is that the other part of it is that they're not necessarily all that invested in making sure that you create your own financial freedom, because if you do, you're not going to work for them anymore. You have to go find somebody else, right? So they're not actually, the mission of these companies isn't designed to help the individual create personal wealth on their own. So the only way I know how to do it is to start a business or invest in real estate or do a side hustle that takes off, or something that doesn't include a W-2, because the other part of it is, as you gain W-2 income and you start to, move through the tax brackets, Uncle Sam's going to take more and more and more. So, there's very little incentive as a W-2 employee or very little ability for a W-2 employee to bust through the middle class and get into the upper middle class, and then ultimately join the ranks of the financially free. So hats off to you, man. It's I admire people who kind of educate themselves, whether that's through college or on their own through books and learning on their own, or whatever, and then apply that to create their own financial future, right? It's an impressive thing.
Yeah.
And it's really rare, right?
Yeah, for
a lot
sure.
of people talk about it, very few people do it.
Yeah. Well, I think for most people that look or want to get involved with investing in real estate, they may have the same thought and mindset that I did, even myself back early on, is that it's a rich man's game. You can really only invest in real estate if you're wealthy to begin with. And that's the wrong type of thinking. I did not understand it. I just assumed that's the case because you're buying expensive stuff.
Right.
I was never a high income earner. I've never made a six-figure salary in those jobs, the careers I've had.
Right.
I started around like a 30,000 a year salary early on, and then worked my way up. But by the time I left my job, I think my base salary was like 55,000. So
Yeah.
I was coming from a relatively average income. I
Right.
did have some. The only real incentive that they gave, besides we got some small quarterly bonus stuff, but
Right.
the real bonus that they would offer is like, you can work more hours, you get overtime. I'm like, well, that's not really a bonus.
Yeah.
Be working more hours.
Yeah.
That's
How
not
is that a
incentive at
bonus?
all. So
Right.
yeah, so I was like, yeah, and and a few years back, that's what I depended on. I was working like
Right.
60-hour weeks just to make more income, yeah, rather than go and work a second job. I was like, well, I guess work more hours and get paid more what I'm doing, and
Yep.
it was fine. But it definitely takes away your personal time, takes away your family time. It burns you out, and
Right.
it's not, like you said, it's not the path to financial freedom.
Right.
And so I was like, I've got to get out of this, and there was no other option for me than to take a risk and get involved in real estate, take a loan for my 401k to buy that first property, and and take my chances. I was like, I saw it as less risking my retirement savings
So
account
true.
than to risk keep working the rest of my life, like you said, until I die. So
So
um,
true.
yeah,
I wholeheartedly, and I spent almost 25 years in, working for corporate America. And I view that as far more risky, especially as you get older, than, working on your own, because, you are at the whim of your boss's boss, the CEO and executive suite of, hopefully they all know
right.
what they're doing, so that there aren't major layoffs, or you run the business into a brick wall. And I've been part of one of those companies, and I've worked for one of those companies. And it's not fun to say, okay, there's a company meeting on Friday afternoon, and on Friday afternoon they're like, yeah, we're declaring bankruptcy this afternoon, and everybody's done, like today. Like, whoa, okay. That was March of 2001, when the dot-com world blew up, right?
Yeah.
So and
Right.
it's being in that business was awesome until the dot-commers went out of business and they stopped paying their bills, and then companies that were feeding off of that dot-com world stopped paying their bills, and that's it, right? And so having your own company that produces revenue and supports your family, and eventually you can grow it into a business that creates wealth. That level of control for me made a lot of sense, right? Because I didn't have to count on anybody else. I was eating what I was killing, and I got pretty good at killing stuff so that we could eat. And because I have two little girls who enjoy food and a roof over their heads, and all that, and my wife's kind of partial to that too. So I was highly incented, probably like you, to to make it all work, right? So
Definitely.
So let's talk about your business today. So Happy Camper Capital, primarily a capital raising company, right? That's your focus in that business.
Yeah, well, we actively purchase properties, right? So we're not
Okay,
just
good.
raising capital for other stuff, right? We raise
Doing
capital for
yourselves
our
too.
own deals, right? So
Awesome.
we're like you're saying, we're sourcing and killing, I guess. So
Yeah.
we
B2B.
actively are pursuing. Yeah, we actively pursue RV campgrounds and resorts.
Okay.
So these are not mobile home parks. Get that distinction, not mobile home park. There's
Yep.
not long-term stays. These are like resort destination vacation campgrounds, right? So
Okay.
you own an RV or just love going outdoors camping, you're going to come to one of these properties, stay there for a weekend or something, and go back home. So we find these properties ourselves, mostly off market, and then we do a capital raise with our investors to help purchase them and provide amazing returns back to our investors.
So it's a fascinating business, because obviously I personally, I focus in multifamily, right? But as an asset class, RV parks, right, and campgrounds, who would think that that's actually a cash flow producing business, to the point where, I mean, obviously there's an appreciation factor, right? But how did you discover this asset class, and what was so compelling that made you dive in, obviously head first?
Yeah. Well, for sure. Like as you mentioned, for many years, decades, it's been mostly a mom and pop business.
Right.
And even today, most of the campground owners are all, they live on site, they rent it, manage it themselves. And so it's only recently becoming more institutionalized at this point. So what led me to it was, I was like yourself, I was in multifamily. I was pursuing multifamily. I had some build to rent multifamily that I'm involved with, but I was still actively trying to get into more standard, we'll say value add multifamily, like everybody else is doing these days.
Sure.
The problem is everybody else is doing it. So
Right.
when I was looking to get into that
Harder
during
pitch.
2021, really, essentially I made that move to commercial real estate in 2021. And as I was looking to find deals, as I was sourcing them, analyzing them, for me, the returns were not good enough. That, especially for me, looking to either ask other people to invest with me, those returns weren't high enough to make me feel comfortable to put their money into it, right?
Right.
And on top of that, I was looking at other people's opportunities. Like, well, nothing else, I'll at least invest as an LP investor in somebody else's syndication. But even then, I was surprised to see the returns were not that much better either. They were still around that very low, at least what I consider low, like a 4 to 6% cash on cash. In most cases, a 2x multiple was pretty much at most during that point. And for me, that wasn't good enough. Again, my goal was to produce cash flow so I could get out of my job and provide for my family. And 4 to 6% is not going to get me there. Again, kind of going back to talking about working at a W-2 to get to your financial freedom, you're never going to get there. At 4 to 6%, I was never going to get there. Right. Waiting 5 years to double my money was not going to get me there. So I was just pursuing, seeing what else is out there, what other opportunities are out there. Part of my daily routine at that point is I was working from home for my job. I was listening to podcasts every day. Like I literally I set routine on certain podcasts came out certain days. I listened to those. And I listened to others. I listened to probably four to five podcasts per day as I worked. And on one of those podcasts, somebody happened to mention these RV campgrounds, and it was something I had never even thought about. Never heard about anybody else doing. I thought was interesting and unique. And when this person mentioned the returns that were possible in this space, I was like, wow, that's incredible. And for me, so I live in Eastern Idaho. We're like an hour and a half away from Yellowstone Park. It's a big camping area.
Right.
I saw this as a potentially unique opportunity, something that because of my location could get me a foot in the door of something. So
sure.
I started connecting with people in that space, going to webinars or meetup events that are people talking about that, just to get to know more about it and get to know people in that space, so that I could essentially offer that service. Like if somebody wants to buy here something near Yellowstone, I'm your guy. I can go be your boots on the ground, take pictures, videos. My wife is a realtor. We can help you with the purchase, all those things. I could be your asset manager to watch over it, all that kind of things. So that was my initial goal. I just want to get my foot in the door, get a small piece of a deal, like just me, just half of 1% or something. I don't care, just to get that experience in there.
Right.
Just doing that, making that I guess being the squeaky wheel out there, making comments on social media and things, and following people around. I eventually got connected with a couple guys who had just bought their first property, and they were at that point where they realized they could not continue to grow doing it themselves. They needed a team, so they were looking to grow and expand their company and bring on partners and team members, and so we connected through a comment on social media, and then had a phone call, talked about their goals and my goals and what I was looking to do, and where this industry was going, where they were looking to do with the company. And and I was already, at this point, I was already convinced I was going to be investing, if nothing else. I wanted to invest in this space because, again, those cash flows were just amazing. Yeah. And then just out of the blue, I unexpectedly, they invited me to join with them and become part of their team and help them to grow the company. And so
what an opportunity. That's
I was
great.
I was excited, but I was also a bit afraid because I was like yourself. I was pursuing multifamily. I didn't know anything about campgrounds. I was involved with a couple of different masterminds that are all multifamily, and so I was a bit worried maybe that I would be ostracized or laughed at for not doing multifamily. But the way I looked at it, though, I was
cloth,
like,
you're out of the multifamily club, that kind of thing, or
well, sort of, yeah. So I was like, I'm not doing this for them or for anybody else. I'm doing this for me and my family. It's like if I see what the future looks like for me 3 years from now, am I going to regret not taking this chance because it wasn't multifamily? Then I'm going to at least go for it. I'm going to give it a try. If it works out, awesome. If it doesn't work out, at least I tried and won't regret it. So I kind of use that as my thought process to say, let's do it. And so I joined up with Happy Camper Capital as of November 2021. And we've just been growing and had an amazing pace ever since. And honestly, as kind of we were talking about offline before this, is that had I not gotten into this space with Happy Camper Capital, I would not have been a guest on 100 different podcasts. Now, there have been
Right.
nothing special or unique about me to go and talk about, so,
Well, I'm sure there are
so
other
it definitely
special things about you. So, but
yeah, well, maybe. Yeah, I was actually on a couple before I got no have camp, but still not to the extent of people like, hey, come talk about that on our
yeah,
show, because like yourself, I've had on pretty much every podcast I've been on, they've never had a guest before that talked about campgrounds. So
right.
it gave me a unique platform to promote and talk about,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
on top of that, to help people understand that there are higher cash flow opportunities out there besides what they do here more publicly.
So let's break this down, and I'm not going to pin you down to a target number, but
Yeah,
I'm interested. I'm curious about a range. Okay, in fairness,
yeah,
you look at your typical syndication, right, where it's somewhere between 6 and 8, maybe 9% preferred returns. Target IRR ranges from 12 to maybe 16%, with a hope that you get into the low 20s. With a self-storage, so on average, I think syndications over time return like, ballpark, or multifamily, that is ballpark, 13%, where, self-storage is looking at, 15, 16, 17% on average overall, right? It may even have improved since that market's kind of taken off a little bit. And cap rates have compressed in that part of the world. And then you look at like straight or short-term rentals, where you talk to some of the experts out there. Robin Thompson's is one of my favorites, and she'll tell you that if you can get $1 for a monthly rent, on a short-term rental, you can get probably anywhere from $1.50 to $2.50. And I'm using a small number to, so if it's 1,000, you're looking at 1,500 to 2,500, but you can get multiples, what you can get in short-term rentals. So, that tells me that, there are absolutely other asset classes where you can grow wealth in a very significant way. So, when you say RV parks, I think at least tangentially short-term rentals, right? But it's not really, it's similar, but it's not the same, right? So tell me about that, and tell me, what kind of returns historically you've seen in the market, and let's talk ranges, so we stay off the big SEC radar. But I'm just curious, what are historical returns for this asset class?
yeah. Well, first, like as you're saying, to give some clarification, that I actually do compare this more closely to like a short-term rental or even a hotel type model,
Okay.
more than multifamily or mobile home
Yeah.
parks or anything else,
Yeah.
because that's kind of what we're after. This is outdoor hospitality, so
Right.
people come there and stay for a while, and then they go home, and that's really what creates that high revenue for us. And so typically, what we target when the properties we're looking to buy, we're looking for double-digit cash on cash, double-digit obviously IRR stuff. So giving a range, we'll say we typically target between a 12 to 18% cash on cash is pretty much average. We have had properties we've seen as high as like a 20% average cash on cash.
Got my
And then
attention.
that equates to then usually a 2.5 to 3x multiple,
Yeah.
and let's say 18 to 25% IRR. So we're at that very high range for people that are looking for higher returns. But me particularly, what really drew me to the space more than the IRR, more than equity multiples, was that cash flow. I was
Yeah.
looking for cash flow day one, right? And so these properties, as soon as even when we buy them, even if we did zero value add just to improve it, make it better, they're going to cash flow day one. Typically, we're let's say year one, as we're doing our capex plans, we're still looking at probably between an 8 to 10% cash on cash year one,
Okay.
right? And then as we do improvements to make that better, that's going to go up over time, and kind of give us that average range closer to like a 15% or so cash on cash.
Wow.
So for me,
Really?
I was like, for what I was trying to buy even on my own, like sourcing more four-plexes or sourcing other smaller multifamilies, I was like, as the competition got much more fierce, you have to way overpay on anything just to get a property.
Right.
Those cash flows were going way down.
Right.
The point didn't make sense. I wasn't going to buy something on hopes that it's going to continue to appreciate. I was like, if it doesn't cash flow, high or at least double-digit cash on cash from day one, I didn't want it. I wasn't interested.
Huh?
And so that's what really got my attention. These properties,
Wow.
I was not seeing those returns in multifamily or anything else. I was like, yeah, these deals are going to give me that cash flow I need to get out of my job.
Right on. Wow, that's phenomenal. And so when you say value add, what is adding value to an RV park, for instance? What does that look like? Is it, bathrooms and running water and showers and things like that? Or, are you just, raking the lot and making sure that there's no pine cones for people to trip on. I mean, like what is it? I don't mean to
Yeah.
belittle it. I know that it's probably a big job, but I have no clue how
Yeah.
you add value to a parking
Sure.
lot.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to it actually. So,
Yeah.
as you're saying, compared to multifamily, it's not as simple as replacing the flooring and painting and putting in appliances, right? This is a whole process. On there's multiple layers to it. We'll even say so. At the very simplest level, again, we're buying from mostly mom and pop owners who've
Sure.
probably lived on the property and ran it themselves for possibly even through generations of family, maybe.
Yeah.
And so they tend to keep it very simple. What they do within the resources, they want to be able to manage it themselves, so they don't have it overly complex, and typically don't have much of an online presence. They may have a website, but not with online reservations or anything else. So they only do phone call reservations only, same price per night. Just make it simple to say, yeah, it's so much per night,
Right.
And so the very simplest form, us just coming in there with the software, the website upgrades, the online reservations platform. Those things alone are going to increase the revenue by at least 5%, just from people that don't want to make a phone call, but they will, make reservations
They'll
online.
do it on their phone as they're running down the highway, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Most people these days don't like making phone calls, even myself included, right? So if I can't do it online, it's like, I have to make a phone call. So
Right.
they'll look for one down the road. They'll look for one down the road where they can just make a reservation, make it easy.
Isn't that amazing that we
So-
can't be bothered to make a phone call, but I'll get on and use my thumbs to find whatever I need. That's amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's one thing. That's the simplest form. That's like the low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
From there, it's a lot of just general upgrades. In most cases, for us, it's expansion. If we find a property that's got additional land, we want to build it out, add on more campsites, add on more glamping options, add on more amenities, things that are going to attract people to come there. Because these days, people are not just going camping just to go camping. Like me and my family, when I was young, we'd go camping somewhere alone in a tent and build a fire.
Right.
That was camping.
Me too.
Boy Scout camp, same thing. That's simple stuff. So, but these days people are camping for entertainment. They're not going just to relax and be alone. They're going there to have fun, to get away and relax, enjoy the times. But more or less go to like an amusement park. Right, that's like an amusement park basically, but in a campground. So we're adding on these types of amenities and attractions that are going to bring people there, make them want to stay there and spend money while they're there. So we look for not just what's existing, what can be done. Of course, if there's not a pool, without a pool, we may add a lazy river type thing or an aqua park if it's on a lake. If you look for something to go down on docks to have like boats and people go skiing and that kind of stuff. We've got some properties we will add on like an amphitheater to do concert events, bring people there. So again, people may not even go there for camping at all. They'll come out for a concert event. They go play in the lake while they're there. Yeah, while they're there, they'll spend money on other things and enjoy their time and maybe rent a cabin or something to stay longer. So all these different things can bring in different revenue streams. We looked at we've got some properties we have like a restaurant on site. We don't run the restaurant, but we own the building, and then rent the building to a local restaurant that serves people there. And of course, there's the improvements of the essentially the utilities basis. There's basically these pedestals people come and plug into for the electricity and water and that kind of stuff. In most cases, the owners pay that utility cost. We'll charge it back. We'll obviously improve those. Actually, we're in most cases when we take over property, we're going to upgrade those, make them a higher voltage receptacle that could handle like an electrical vehicle. So if someone's pulling with an electrical truck and charge it, they'll have that capacity to do that and make them pay for it. So those are some simple things, of course. And then it's just, as you said, that there's typically already going to be like a bathhouse there for like public showers and stuff, but and public laundry. But we want to make them nice and clean and attractive, so people walk in and go, ew, walk in. You want to be very nice, make appealing, and people want to come and use it and stay there, and talk about it. And of course, that's the big thing is we do a lot of glamping. So you got not just your cabin stuff, you have these like yurts and other unique things. There are these like exotic Airbnb type thing, right? So people come and stay there that do their their Instagram posts and stuff to talk, hey, I'm at so and so campground, look at this cool exotic thing I'm staying at. So all those different things are going to attract people that want to come there and stay there and have fun and enjoy it, and then tell their friends about it, and then come back and have more fun, right?
It's a whole new world. Wow. I never so I live on the East Coast, right? I mean, we don't have mountains, right? So I mean, it's you live in God's country, and it's a a tremendous opportunity to create these destinations. I had no idea
we buy across the country though. Yeah, we don't just buy right on that. We're buying across the country. Yeah. So wherever we can find a deal that makes sense.
Yeah. So you said that these are mostly mom and pop run. So how do you create deal flow? I'm fascinated. I'm absolutely fascinated by this business model. So how do you create deal flow? Is it direct mail and cold calling, or or are there brokers that
Yeah.
focus on this?
Well, there are brokers. We typically don't buy from them though, because
Yeah,
their cap rates are too compressed. They inflate the
right,
price and add on their commissions, and it's like it
right,
doesn't make sense for a
right,
syndication.
right,
There's still great deals for someone who wants to buy, but for a syndication that doesn't get the returns we're looking for our investors, right? So,
right, right, right.
so we are sourcing everything off market. We are doing cold calling, right? So we are calling up the campgrounds directly, which is the great thing. In most cases, again, mom and pop, they live there, they run it. They're probably the ones answering the phone. So if you call them up, you pretty have high chances of talking to the owners
Right.
to say, hey, by the way, do you want to sell your property?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of where we create our deal flow, just cold calling the campgrounds directly.
Wow. I'm absolutely fascinated. Selfishly, I would love to learn about your next deal because I would love to see the offering memorandum on something like this. It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. And then my wife and I, used to camp when our kids were younger, and now they're teenagers, and I have a 20-year-old and a 15-year-old, and they're too cool to do that now. But it sounds like a whole lot of fun.
Well, you never know. If there's a concert going on, you might say, "Hey, we're gonna go see a concert." And by the way, it's at a
True.
campground.
True.
So,
Yeah. If you can
yeah,
get,
yeah.
Lil Uzi or Beyonce to play, my kids will show up. But so wow, it's absolutely fascinating. This has been an education and a half for me. So thank you for that. So I'm curious. Obviously you're a learner, right? I mean, you've got your degrees, and obviously you learned about this business, and you're well versed in the multifamily business. How do you consume it? I have this hypothesis, and I'm working to prove it out, that leaders are readers, right? And so,
Yeah.
I know that, guys like you, guys like me, folks that run businesses like we do, we're consuming information on a very regular basis. You had mentioned podcasts a while back. So I'm curious, is podcasts the primary way that you consume, new information, or do you read or listen to audiobooks or YouTube videos? And the big question is, who are you paying attention to these days?
Wow. So going back before I got involved with real
Yeah.
estate,
Yeah.
I hated reading.
Me
I
too.
read
That was
my books for school, and that's pretty much
yeah.
it. I kind
Punishment.
of force myself to stay awake sometimes. So
Right.
so reading was never for me. Reading was not an enjoyable thing to do. Like people like that's their pastime is reading. I'm like, not for me.
Yeah.
But as I got involved with real estate and pursuing financial independence, I discovered that I did enjoy reading about real estate and finance and investing. Those are topics now I was interested in. So I was more than happy to read books on that.
Yeah.
I'm still, I'd say, relatively a slow reader though. I don't really can't go through a book in a day like some people do.
Yeah.
So I have to sometimes go back and reread things. So my mind wanders. I can't really focus
Same.
on reading, so I have to go back and reread things. So so I still enjoy reading to learn new things that I don't understand or want to know more about. That's one way. I do like listening to podcasts. It's kind of more simple way that I can kind of multitask. I can work on something else while I'm listening to it.
Yeah.
And that's again early on what gave me a lot of education and also a lot of my first networking. I was not, I guess, afraid to reach out to the podcast guests who are these people on these shows that usually at the end they would say, how do you get a hold of you? I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to reach out to you and
I'm
see,
going to
and
actually
I
do
want to
it.
learn more.
Right?
I want to, yeah. So I was doing that early on, and for me, it paid off. I got almost everybody I reached out to would respond. I'd get on a call with most of them, just nothing else to ask questions and learn and kind of see what they're doing. That's how I first really learned about syndications and had my first exposure to a syndication deal.
Yeah.
And so that was my I guess playground to do that. I'm the type though that I don't like wasting time per se. I view time as our most valuable resource. So I don't want to waste my time doing something that's not of any real benefit to me or my family.
Right.
So I usually, you don't find me watching TV and that kind of stuff. That's for me not a good use of my time. So so these days I'm definitely a lot more busy with like what I'm doing with Happy Camper Capital and what I'm doing with some other development projects, things. So I don't have as much time to listen to many podcasts or to read books as much. I still try to do what I can. I still do a lot of mostly networking, going to meetup events and being educated through webinars and learning from others, that's probably my biggest source now of new learning is just going direct to the source. I'll find the person who's the expert on the thing, set up a call with them, learn about what they're doing, or say go to a webinar where they're presenting on just to be informed about something.
Yeah.
And that's been the biggest help for me.
Yeah.
As far as who I'm you said who I'm following or paying attention to.
Yeah,
You
who do
said,
you, like which podcasts do you listen to? What books are you listening to or reading? I'm curious.
yeah.
Like who are the authors and the creators that are resonating with you right now?
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, audiobooks, I don't really do audiobooks. I've listened to a couple, but again, for me, it's a bit different. Podcasting is one thing. Listen to a podcast. Listening to a book being read is not as easy for me to pay attention to and focus on. So I prefer to read a book than listen to audio. So I don't really do that. But I'm still a big fan of, I still promote the ones that got me started. The ones that were I'd say the launching point for me was, Bigger Pockets, obviously.
Sure.
The Choose FI podcast about financial independence.
Yeah.
The Mad Scientist.
Oh yeah, sure.
Get Rich Education. So these are all like, relative things I'm focused on financial independence, and then real estate. That's kind of me early on. I kind of had that, I guess we'll call it epiphany, I guess, where I was pursuing financial independence. I already wanted to get there, but again, not having a high income to save up a multi-million-dollar nest egg.
Right.
I was never going to get there. I had that understanding, realization as I was learning from both sides of things. Okay, the shortcut to financial independence is through real estate. I don't need to save $1 million. I can, save up a little bit of money and start investing in real estate and build up that income stream.
Yep.
Is what the end goal is,
Yep.
rather than saving $2 million to get interest from that. So
right.
So those are the ones I followed early on to kind of really learn and educate and get motivated. Those are ones I still enjoy listening to when I have time to. But these days I'm doing more guest appearances on podcasts and listening to as many as I did before. And then I do a lot of what I spend a lot more time on these days is networking. I go to a lot of just general networking events. Haven't done much in-person ones since COVID stuff. Everything moved to virtual.
Yeah, that's actually where we met. Right?
We met on
so online meetup, right? Was it Angel Williams?
Exactly. Yeah. And so. Yeah. Possibly, I don't know. So I went to
many
all of 20, pretty much all of 2021. All I spent my time doing is I just went to multiple meetups. I was not involved with Happy Camper. I was not involved with any commercial real estate stuff.
Yeah.
I just needed to network, get to know people, have them get to know me, because that was for me a big thing that I learned early on was that you have to have that to be successful in this space. You have to have the know, like, and trust thing. So right. I did not know anybody. Nobody was gonna. If nobody knew me, they're not gonna like or trust me either. So I had to get out there and be known to start building up that like and trust factor.
Yeah.
So that way, eventually, when I got to that point where I had something to offer, they are now willing to invest with me because they know, like, and trust me.
Yeah. Right.
So that's a
friends, and you've
big
served
thing
them,
to spend your time doing.
Right on.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
So
Don, I'm curious, when you're not providing really awesome places for families to go hang out and enjoy themselves, what do you like to do as a hobby, or how do you spend time with your family?
Yeah.
Tell me you go to
we do like to travel. Yeah, I've been to a few. We're hopefully going to buy some soon near my area that make it even better, more enjoyable to go to when we own it. But yeah, we've been to a couple. We do like to travel though. We enjoy traveling. Even just driving somewhere. We like to drive just to see the outdoors and enjoy the time together.
Yep.
My wife is from South America, so we like to get back there as often as we can.
Yeah, nice.
Personally, the two things that I guess help me relax, we'll say, is I don't watch pretty much any TV, but I do enjoy watching a movie once in a while. Not going to a movie theater, but here at home, just
right.
Rent a movie or stream
Popcorn's
something to watch at home. And yeah. So I do like that, and then also my we'll say real hobby, I guess, is coin collecting. I have a pretty large coin collection and banknote collection that I started many years ago as a kid, even, and that's been, for me, it's an enjoyable thing to just kind of build to that when I can.
Very cool.
Just I don't know. It doesn't really serve any purpose other than just I enjoy adding to it and making it bigger, nicer, and certain things, But that, of course, in itself has grown quite a bit in value too. I mean, I never was buying it as an investment. I just buy it because I enjoyed it, and it's like something I like to have. But it's also something that someday, if there's ever an emergency, hey, I've got a decent amount of money in those coins that I can at least pass on to my kids, if nothing else. So
right, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So Don, if someone wants to get in touch with you and learn more about you, so this is the part we were just talking about, and I know you would call you, and I'm going to call you again, but and if people want to reach out to you or learn more about your business, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah. Well, you can find me on social media such as LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active, is LinkedIn, and I guess in Facebook too. But you easily find me on LinkedIn. You can go to our website, happycampercapital.com.
Yep.
You can go to the About Us tab there. You'll find my name. Click on that. And then at the bottom right of the screen, you'll find a link where you can schedule a call with me. So we can set up a Zoom call and talk directly one-on-one.
Excellent. Well, Don Spafford, thank you so much. I'm grateful for your time. I am absolutely fascinated, and we're going to talk as soon as we press the pause button on this record. But I'm absolutely fascinated by your business model, and I'm not going to lie, the numbers are attractive. So I'm looking forward to learning more, and hopefully the folks out there are smart enough to pick up the phone and call you and reach out on your website as well. So Don Spafford with Happy Camper Capital. Thank you very much for your time today. It's truly been a pleasure.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
This has been the Real Estate Underground Podcast, a Clark Street Capital presentation. Thanks for joining us. If you're enjoying the show, please remember to subscribe and share it with your friends. If you'd like to learn more about Clark Street Capital and our upcoming projects, please join our investor club at clarkst.com/join. Until next time, happy investing.